Hello and welcome back to All Elite Spotlight. I'm TNT, and today we're reviewing the May 6th episode of AEW Dynamite. It was a 3-hour pro wrestling extravaganza, 2 hours of Dynamite, 1 hour of Collision, all together as one. Unity. So we had, like I said, great night of pro wrestling, and we started the show off with an opening segment focused on Ted Turner's passing. Shivani was in the middle of the ring, just giving a brief history of the man, Ted Turner, what he meant for wrestling, how he was a big foundation for WCW and just wrestling in general at that point, and is important to the networks TNT and TBS, of which WCW was such a huge part of, and the tradition that AEW is carrying on those same networks. And we also got a bonus appearance. We got Sting. He came out and also gave a little tribute to Big Ted, as he called Ted Turner, and also gave a nod to Tony Khan for continuing along those lines as well to keep wrestling, to keep pro wrestling alive and well. They also did a 10-bell salute, and Shivani mentioned that the side plates on the TNT and TBS titles would be honoring those studios of Turner's. From there, we got a kick into action with a singles match, the Continental title Eliminator match. We had Jon Moxley, Continental Champion, going up against Juice Robinson. And Excalibur was nice enough to let us all know, in case some of us weren't paying attention, that Jon Moxley is undefeated in his Eliminator matches, a perfect 8-0 since becoming the Continental Champion. And this was a solid match. These guys have history since way back in New Japan, where they've fought over titles in the past. Mox getting the better, but Juice holding the victory over Jon Moxley as well. So, match was highly entertaining, very physical, very hard-hitting. Mox got busted open earlier on his left cheek. So it was really physical, back and forth match throughout it all. Mox doing Mox things, even resorting to biting Juice Robinson. No surprise seeing that there, but highly competitive match. Of course, it being Continental title rules, there was nobody allowed to be at ringside, so no Death Riders, no Bang Bang Gang, of which, remember now, in Collision, we did see that Colton Gunn returned, so the Guns are back as a team, backing up the Bang Bang Gang. However, in this match, for the Eliminator purposes of the Continental rules, no seconds at ringside, and match still ended with a victory again for Jon Moxley, so taking his record to a perfect 9-0 in those Eliminator matches. He won with a Bulldog choke. Juice, to his credit, did try to fight out of it, but eventually succumbed and passed out. So no tap out, but he passed out, and it was a victory, solid, good victory for Jon Moxley as he moves on to whoever will be the next contender for that title. From there, we go into the intrigue behind Will Ospreay and what he's doing with the Death Riders. So we get a backstage promo. The Death Riders are training in the back in a hallway somewhere in the bowels of the arena. And we see Wheeler Yuta doing sit-ups. We eventually see that Yuta is doing those sit-ups while on Will Ospreay's back. So Ospreay's on his hands and knees, serving as basically like a table for, or a platform for Wheeler Yuta's sit-ups. And, Yuta finally finishes it. Mox goes up to Ospreay and he explains the concept of something called Death Ground, which I'm not aware of. I don't know if anyone out there has heard of that before, but that term was new to me. Basically, he explained it for all of us regardless, and he said that it's basically a place that you can't leave, and Will Ospreay is here because he's basically training to come back from his horrific neck injury. Moxley sees greatness in him. He's not like anybody else. He just has to put in the work and he can get to the point where he wants to be. So Moxley is focused on helping Will Ospreay be the best Will Ospreay that he can be? Now, is he doing it out of the kindness of his heart? I don't know about that. I'm sure there's got to be some other motivation for Jon Moxley in there. We know he loves professional wrestling. We know he cares about his guys to a point, right? Unless you're Bryan Danielson, who got like obliterated. But setting that aside, he does care about the craft and the people that are in the Death Rider group with him. They're basically his family, right? His wrestling family. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. We did see later in the night another promo with Will Ospreay. He was in the back with Renee and Doc Samson. And Doc was basically answering questions as to whether Ospreay is cleared or not to wrestle. They brought up that Will did wrestle in Japan, but he's still looking good. They're going to do an MRI next week, and we'll find out there if he's cleared. Now, Will Ospreay did answer Renee's question, saying he is not a Death Rider, nor will he ever be. So at the moment, it seems like he's still his own man. He's just doing what he needs to do to get to where he needs to be. So we'll see how all that turns out, because there was another backstage promo with the Ops, and Samoa Joe was highly focused on that offer that he put out to Will Ospreay, an offer that he's saying he hasn't heard anything back about. So he did this, in his words, in his most non-threatening way, saying, that the Ops, he will be there for Will Ospreay and let Ospreay be who he wants to be. So no manipulation, nothing like that. That he's alluding to the Death Riders to possibly being, right, to manipulate Will Ospreay and use him for whatever purposes they may have. Samoa Joe is saying he will not have to deal with that in the Ops. He can be himself. He's getting movie roles for Hook, which Hook wasn't there, not because he was being punished for losing his TNT title match against Kevin Knight, but because he's filming a movie, apparently. Joe's also mentioning that Bowens is about to, take his game to a new level. Shibata is able to be his pure self, the wrestler, and this is all thanks to Joe and being in the Ops. But he did give a warning that this was the last time he was going to put his hand out to Will Ospreay, and if he doesn't accept it, the next time he'll be putting his fist out. So Joe, typical Joe, threatening guy that you have to take as a serious threat. So we'll see if this leads up to some gang warfare, basically, or faction warfare, if you'd rather put it that way. And I imagine the Ops and the Death Riders will be colliding at some point, because Joe's not just going to let this slide and hear nothing else about it. And it doesn't seem like Will Ospreay has anything to do with them, or is going to have anything to do with them. He's focused on the Death Riders and what they're having him do. So our next match for Dynamite was another singles match. It was the double Jeopardy match between Dax and Orange Cassidy. So if Dax wins, then FTR and Ciampa get a championship match against the Trios champions, the Conglomeration. If Orange Cassidy wins, then any two members of the Conglomeration get a tag team title shot against FTR. And this basically turned into a lumberjack match without it being an official lumberjack match, because with Dax came Cash Wheeler, of course, Stokely, the Dogs, so Clark Connors and David Finlay, as well as RPG Vice, so Trent and Romero. And for Orange Cassidy, he came out with his Trios champ crew, so Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, the Bucks came out, and so did Cage and Cope. So huge, massive humanity out there, and it worked like a lumberjack match. Faces, heels. So you got some of that, Orange Cassidy goes out on the wrong side of town. He gets some work, gets thrown into the ring, and vice versa. So fun little matchup here. Orange Cassidy ended up getting the win by reversing an armbar into a pin. And so he wins the double Jeopardy match. So looks like the Conglomeration, a combination of the two of them, will be challenging FTR for the tag titles at a future date. Of course, after the match, it had to break into chaos because there's so many people outside the ring. The good guys ended up in charge and were left surrounding RPG Vice. So Trent and Romero basically were in there to get the wombo combo, super kick party, a couple spears, kick to the groin by a cage, and we're off to the races. Fun celebration afterwards, and that was the end of that. Orange Cassidy wins the Double Jeopardy match. Had a quick video package for Roosh, just showing us the history, and he's El Toro Blanco, highlighting that he's been on a run. He's been on TV a lot and basically just crushing people in squash matches. We also had a backstage promo for Jericho. He's there with Renee talking about how tired he is of these beatdowns and this 3-on-1 attacks, but he's done being mad. It's time to fight. So he goes from the backstage, walks out to the ring, and calls out Ricochet because he wants him one-on-one. Ricochet answers, of course. He's not on his own. He's out there with the Gates of Agony. Ricochet says he's bored of this. You know, he has no reason to fight Jericho one-on-one. He gets nothing out of it. But what he does want is a challenge at Double or Nothing for a match that Jericho himself made, and he wants a stadium stampede. One of the best new match types that AEW has come up with, and I'm definitely looking forward to that because stadium stampedes are always fun. It's chaotic, but you know, it's highly enjoyable. I've not seen a bad version of that match, so something to look forward to, and a huge Chris Jericho staple. So Jericho, of course, happy to accept. He'll find his partners, he says, and if he can't, he'll take them all on by himself. He then proceeds to clear the ring, hits Judas Effect onto Ricochet, and it's in firm control, of course, until he's not. The numbers game catches up, but thankfully for him, the Hurt Syndicate comes out and makes the save. So it looks like he'll at least have 2 partners with him, maybe even 3 if MVP decides to put on the tights again, but definitely 2. So it's going to be 5-on-5. We'll see who else rounds out Jericho's team and who Ricochet can get to round out his team as well. Now, after that match, I did find it interesting. We had another singles match with a former teammate of Jericho, former Bad Apple. It's the bounty hunter, Brian Keith, and he's going up against Okada with Don Callis on commentary and Lance Archer, as always, at ringside. So interesting that Brian Keith is the next match out when he has this history with Chris Jericho. So was that a coincidence, or are they laying the seeds for either he's going to team up with Jericho, or you don't know? Maybe he won't be on his side because Jericho did let him and Big Bill loose. So he could have a chip on his shoulder for that, and he could side with Ricochet's team. Or this could be entirely a coincidence. Either way, he had a solid showing tonight, faced the international champion, Kazuchika Okada, and definitely held his own. It was a great showcase, I thought, for Brian Keith of what he's capable of. And it was good to see him back on AEW TV, and not just in tag action, but as a singles competitor and going up against a world-renowned, world-class champion like Kazuchika Okada. So definitely a solid match, a A+ match for sure. And Brian Keith really got to show a lot of his style, a lot of his ring work, a lot of his offense. It was not a squash match in any sense of the word. It was a match almost dominated by more offense on Brian Keith's side. So great matchup for him, great matchup for the both of them, but it was great to see Brian Keith get to be highlighted like that. In the end, however, after countering a Rainmaker and going through a series of back and forths and counters, he was able to hit Okada with a beautiful double underhook powerbomb, but it was not enough. In the end, a Rainmaker ends the match, 1, 2, 3. But again, strong work from Brian Keith. Looking forward to seeing what he has for himself in the future. Now, at the end of the match, we did get a quick in-ring promo from Okada. And basically, he's saying he wants more than what he has with the international title and a defense against Takeshi at Double or Nothing. What he wants is the AEW World title. So another wrestler with his eyes set on the ultimate prize. We also had a quick backstage promo. We had Mina and Harley, and poor Harley still in her Babes of Wrath t-shirt, still looking disheveled and just not into it. That's when Mina Shirakawa says, "Hey, Harley, you got to stop looking outside and you got to look in your heart." And from there, Mina tears that Babes of Wrath shirt. Harley Cameron snaps out of it, tears the rest of it off, and says she's ready to deliver the wrath. We've got the return of a fired up Harley Cameron, and she's ready to go and fight alongside Mina in her tag match tonight. So a fair amount of backstage promos and video packages tonight. We do have a 3-hour show. They were all good quality promos and helped to further their particular storylines. So I was happy to see them mixing up the entertainment value of the show without hurting the professional wrestling standard that we all love so much. So we had a quick video package of Andrade, basically just reminding the fans that, hey, he still has his eyes on the world title. And it was a nice little hype video for him. And then we also had a backstage promo. This was for Kevin Knight ahead of his match against Darby Allin for the world title. And Speedball was there with him and started it off. He's basically there to declare that at the end of the night, there'll be Jet 2 belts. And Kevin Knight is reminding everyone that Darby said that he's going to defend that title until his body gives out. And Kevin Knight says tonight will be that night, and he will be the new AEW World Champion. From there, we go into our tag match with Mina Shirakawa and Harley Cameron going up against the former world champions Kris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. So this rivalry finally coming to a head, taking place in the ring. Harley has got her fire back. She's got her wrath back, and everybody's going to feel it. So Statlander and Mina start off the match. Harley Cameron tags in, Shida tags in, and immediately tags back out. She wants no part of Harley Cameron. So Statlander stays in there doing the majority of the work. Shida does eventually tag in when Mina Shirakawa is under Statlander's firm control and goes ahead and, of course, proceeds to taunt Harley Cameron. Now, I will say Harley did a great match in the ring. So Mina was definitely in the ring more often than not, but the times that Harley came in there, I will say her ring work was smooth. All her moves were smooth. She looked really good in the ring. And it was just good to see her back in the ring and putting in good work and looking good while she does it. So I'm a fan of Harley Cameron. I like to see her succeed because I think she's a great character. She's got great personality, and I think it's good for the show overall. So her in-ring style being smooth and her being proficient at what she's doing definitely helps. Like I said, she's not in there the whole match. It's not a singles match. It's not where she has to carry most of the load in the tag match. She's in there with a pro like Mina, and so it really helps for her to come in and, hit her high spots and hit her moves and move on. So I thought it was a really good job by her. In case I haven't said it already, I'm really happy that Shida is back because, she's one of the AEW greats. So I'm actually happy that her and Statlander are together as a team. Don't think it will last that long, but as long as it does last, I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm definitely enjoying the fact that Shida's back. She'd been gone for so long, and I'm not going to take it for granted. Now, there was, of course, a spot which I was afraid would happen. I expected to happen. Most of you did too, I'm sure, as well. Mina dodged a jumping knee from Shida, and that ended up knocking Stat out of the ring. However, Statlander was able to recover eventually and save Shida from Harley Cameron's finishing move, which she calls her finishing move, and was able to then follow up and hit a Falcon Arrow on Harley for the 3 count, and that was it. Statlander did look reluctant and upset, but she still put her hand up for the victory, and they walked out as the winning team. So no breakup or anything like that, nothing extreme, but just more cracks, of course. And we all know that eventually this is going to lead to a fracture that can't be fixed. So we also get a quick promo of Swerve. He's talking about real power. Before he left again, he was talking about gaining power. That means you have more fear, more control, and he wants all the power. So from him being the most dangerous to Bandito being the most wanted, he's got his target set on Bandito. And we see a backstage promo with Bandito, who's got Brody at his side as well. He's saying that, yeah, he is the most wanted, but guess what? He's also easy to find. So he's more than happy to accept any challenge that Swerve has for him. And I'm sure this will be a matchup that will be made for Double or Nothing. Brody King is there to remind Swerve that, hey, he doesn't care if he's coming after him, but, you know, he messes with his friends being Bandito, then there's going to be a problem. So we'll see where all this leads to. I mean, I think Bandito can handle himself. He is a long reigning Ring of Honor World Champion. And if it's just him and Swerve and nobody else in Swerve's corner, other than, of course, Prince Nana, then I think it should be okay. But Swerve can be dastardly, so it's good that Brody has Bandito's back. And there we have it. We have the main event of Dynamite anyway. The AEW World title on the line. Darby Allin defending against TNT champion Kevin Knight. And Darby Allin was sporting the new entrance backdrop, so no cartoon video in the back anymore. It's the blue screen with a flight of crows behind him. Same music, of course, that we all love. And he's coming out serious as a heart attack. And he wants to avenge his loss to Kevin Knight in the most recent Continental Classic. And I like that the commentators made sure to bring this up and highlight it. They even spoke about how Darby Allin was out after that match for some time. He got knocked out in the match, and that was due to that coast-to-coast that Kevin Knight hit on him. And Darby Allin had to give up his spot in the Continental Classic. So Darby Allin has been starting his matches, at least with fellow good guys like Brody King, with a handshake. And Kevin Knight slapped his hand away. They proceed to do some chain wrestling back and forth. Kevin Knight gets the better of Darby, knocks Darby down, puts his hand out for to help him up and offer a handshake. Being a little cheeky, I guess, and Darby kicks it away. And they go back to action. So what I liked about this matchup was for the very beginning part of it, for the first few minutes, it was just a technical matchup. So them, you know, chain wrestling, like I said, going from hold to hold, counters. It was just a proficient little wrestling clinic to start the world title match between two champions. And again, to highlight how great professional wrestling is. And I just really like that they highlighted the professional wrestling aspect of that match. I like a good technical matchup, and that's definitely how it started out. So, of course, we got to see the best tope suicida in the business via Darby Allin. We got to see Kevin Knight do amazing things, you know, with that great vertical leaping up on the apron to Darby Allin, who was on the top rope, hitting a top rope Hurricane Rana, sending poor Darby onto the floor, making a terrible splat sound. I know that landing had to hurt. It hurt me, and I was just sitting on the couch watching. Move of the night was probably Kevin Knight's springboard from inside the ring to Darby, who was sitting on the announce table. Hit it picture perfect. And I mean, they showed quite a few highlights of it, and it looked glorious every time you saw it. Kevin Knight is a special talent, and that springboard lariat that he can hit from just about anywhere is always money. Now, that part of the match, that particular move also ended up leading towards problems for Kevin Knight. And after delivering it, he got up with, a bum left knee. So this is what I was looking for, because after his TNT title defense against MJF, he had gotten his leg banged up. His knee was hurt. MJF was targeting it even after the match, hitting him with a chop block. Now, Kevin Knight had a match on Collision against Hook, where he successfully defended the TNT title, but showed no issues with the leg. And to start the match against Darby, there was no issues with the leg. But I like that when he did something high risk, big move like that, it came back to bite him a bit, and he was having the leg trouble again. And the commentators did a good job bringing that back up again as well. So from then on, Kevin Knight had to deal with that injury, let's say, and he immediately went to second rope maneuver, tried to land a dropkick, I guess, got caught and put into Scorpion Deathlock. Able to make the rope break, was able to then counter an ensuing coughing drop by using his knees. Keep in mind that left knee is shot, so also had to feel it on that one. So we go to the part of the match where Darby Allin is strung up in a tree of woe. Kevin Knight goes for the coast to coast again, hits it perfectly. Commentators again bringing up the fact that cost Darby Allin time in the ring, that sent him out of the Continental Classic, that knocked him out, and he ate it again this time followed up by a UFO splash, which Kevin Knight hits, but it's only for a 2 count. Couldn't cover him immediately. Good storytelling again because of the leg, and Darby Allin's able to kick out. Darby Allin then does one of the slickest guillotine setups I've seen, does a quick kick out of that left leg while laying on his back. Kevin Knight falls into guillotine. It looks like he might give up and be done, but he's able to fight out of it. However, he does get draped over the top rope eventually and gets hit with a coffin drop that way, bounces, gets into the ring, gets hit by a second coffin drop. 1, 2, 3, match over. Another successful title defense by Darby Allin, and definitely match of the night. Darby Allin having a great title run so far, and another successful title defense. And we got to see Sting come out to celebrate with him, and that's how the show ended. And we go into Collision. The Collision starts with Sting and Darby in the ring. Sting helps Kevin Knight up, and they all, he raises both their arms together. Darby and Kevin shake hands, and that's the end of the match. And we're starting off Collision with the AEW World Champion successful. And who's going to come out next? Of course, to spoil it, we've got MJF, and he wants, guess what? His rematch. Darby, who's been telling him no, says no again, because Darby wants MJF to have to put something on the line, as he's been saying. And MJF, being a clown, says he'll put a scarf on the line. Not being serious. Darby, no. Dynamite Diamond Ring? No. $1 million? No. So MJF, fed up, what do you want? And Darby says he wants what's so precious to MJF that he'll go to Turkey to get it stuck into his head. He wants MJF's hair. So he wants a hair versus title match. And next week, he's going to have the contract signing. And if MJF doesn't show, then he's never getting that rematch. He asks MJF what he has to say about it. MJF just walks away. So we'll see next Wednesday if MJF wants the title bad enough to put his hair on the line. Could you imagine a bald MJF? I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, it could happen. Hangman lost to MJF, can't challenge for the world title anymore. We've seen some pretty shocking things. So I, for one, will be pulling for Darby, because wouldn't that be a sight to see? Well, considering that Darby even makes it there, because Okada immediately comes out, challenges for the title, and what do you think Darby is going to say? Of course, he's going to say yes. He accepted it. So next week, not only do we have that contract signing, if it happens, we have international champion Kazuchika Okada challenging Darby Allin in the ring for the AEW World title. But guess what? That's only if Darby is the champion next Wednesday, because he accepts during Collision on a backstage promo, Pac issues a challenge saying that he is 2-1 in his series against Darby Allin. So he is challenging for that world title. And we hear that Darby Allin has accepted that as well. So now we have a world title match against Pac this Saturday in the Fairway show. And then that's going to be followed up, if Darby wins, with a world title match on Dynamite against Kazuchika Okada. So week 1, Ciampa. Week 2, Brody. Week 3, Kevin Knight. Same week on Saturday, Pac. And if that's successful, following up a couple days later on Wednesday against Kazuchika Okada himself. I mean, that's an insane. Darby Allin really is, as they say, burning the candle at both ends. And these aren't easy matches, and his body is taking the typical, not even typical, beyond typical at this point, Darby Allin type punishment. So at some point he is going to need a break, especially if he's not even doing it just once a week. He's putting his title on the line multiple times a week. And facing Pac, who their matches have been insane in the past, and hoping to come out of that and face Okada, and then thinking about, it's a lot. So we'll see how long this lasts, but I feel like we're already getting towards the end of it, because no person can handle all of that. So we did have a couple quick singles matches for Collision. We had AR Fox and Speedball. I was really looking forward to those two in the ring when I saw that match, and they definitely did not disappoint. They were making magic in the ring. They flow together so well. AR Fox is such a special talent in the ring. I love watching him wrestle every time. So innovative, and mixing him together with Speedball Mike Bailey, I mean, it was a thing of beauty. The only downside was it was not too long of a match at all. Pretty quick for my standards. Maybe it just went by fast for me, but it did end with a Speedball win. He hit the double knees off the rope, and that was it. Speedball gets the victory. Now, Speedball, I'd like to see him challenge Darby Allin and get thrown into the mix for that. I just don't think with the line of challengers already there that Speedball is going to be able to make it in there. Not while Darby's still champion, unless he sneaks in there somehow. We also had a match between Jamie Hayter and Sky Blue, so keeping that feud going between the Brawling Birds and the Triangle of Madness. However, we did hear Renee say at ringside that Windsor was sidelined, so I'm not sure if that's a serious injury or not, or if it's storyline injury or whatever have you. So we'll see. I'll have to take a look into that, but solid little matchup here. Love seeing Sky Blue in the ring. I think she's definitely a good wrestler in there. It's a shame just to see, however, though, that she is, I hate to say an afterthought, her and Julia Hart, but Tekla takes up so much space in that group, which is insane because Tekla really just jumped into their little thing they were doing. But, Tekla is very good at what she's doing, and I think she's a great women's champion. So, solid little match here. Ended with a battle at the top of the rope between Sky Blue and Jamie Hayter, and Sky Blue fell victim to an avalanche haterade, and that was it, 3 count. Then we see that Tekla and Julia Hart are up in the stands watching. However, they did not come down and get involved with Jamie Hayter, even after Jamie Hayter hit another haterade on Sky Blue, trying to taunt them to come into the ring. So I'm sure that feud appears to be continuing. We'll see if Windsor comes back or Persephone or what have you. From there, we have a couple of backstage promos. We have Willow saying it's an honor to be the face of TBS. She's stating she's had 9 title defenses, and she's basically issuing an open challenge and saying that her wish is to defend every week. So we'll see if there's somebody else that's coming back from some time off to face her, or if we're just going into a regular roster of women who are waiting in the wings. We also see Don Callis back there with his family. He's there with Mark Davis, who he says is going to beat Jack Perry and become the new national champion. He's with Okada, talking about that world title match that they have lined up for next Wednesday. And Takeshita's there as well. And Takeshita interrupts and says that Okada shouldn't be worried about anything else but him and their match at Double or Nothing. Don Callis doesn't really like the sound of that and even says that Takeshita is sounding Omega-ish, which to me sounds like a warning and a threat to Takeshita that at Double or Nothing, he may get the Omega treatment and get a screwdriver to the head and kicked out of the Don Callis family. We'll see what happens. I imagine at some point that's going to happen because this conflict can't possibly stay. Callis even goes so far as to say that Okada is his hand-picked challenger to the world title, which Andrade responds by saying, "How you know? How you know?" And then walks off. So classic Andrade. I love it. Everybody seems to love it. He says it perfectly. Just sounds right. And Andrade was sporting that new IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship that he just recently won while over in Japan. So that leads to our last video package, and it's Jack Perry, the national champion, on his Jurassic Express bus, driven by Luchasaurus. And basically, it shows Jack Perry getting off the bus, jumping from rock to rock, climbing up rocks, climbing up a mountain, standing up at the top of the mountain, saying he is the top of the mountain. And if you don't like it, screw you. And not so many words, but you get the message. So Jack Perry, next opponent, next challenge is Mark Davis on Saturday in the Fairway show that they've got in West Palm. So we have a quick singles match from there. We have Roosh going against Manny Lowe. Not much to say other than Manny Lowe got the horns, and that was that. Quick win for Roosh, El Blanco Toro. That leads us to our main event of the night. We have the 10-man tag match. We've got the Riders, Claudio, Yuta, Garcia, and the Dogs, Clark Connors and David Finlay, going against the Bucks, and the Bang Bang Gang, made up of Ace Austin and the Guns, Austin and Colton Gunn. So super fun match, 10-man tag, so you know it's going to be chaotic. Not too much to say except that the Bucks were out for the majority of it, just on the outside of the match on the apron, and it was a lot of the Guns really, and it was good to see Colton back in the ring. The Bucks did finally ended up getting the hot tag. We got to see the classic super kick party, a BTE trigger to Dave Finlay, and Yuta was able to make the save there from the pinfall. We got to see a 310 to Yuma on Claudio. Then everybody got into a double lariat party. So there was 5 double lariats. Everybody got paired up and got a double lariat. And towards the end of the match, we got to see Yuta eat a triple super kick and end up getting hit with the Ace Austin finisher. And 1, 2, 3, we have the Bucks and the Bang Bang Gang with the victory. And Juice came out and joined them for a celebration in the ring. And that was the end of a fun 3-hour show. Match of the night, of course, was the Dynamite main event. We got to see Sting not once, but twice. And it was just a good night. A lot of fun, a lot of good wrestling, a lot of good matchups. And we have the Fairway show on Saturday on TBS. And what we have so far, we have the Divine Dominion, AEW Women's Tag Team Champions in action. We've got the National Championship on the line. Jack Perry defending against Don Callis family member Mark Davis. And of course, we have the AEW World title on the line. Darby Allin defending against the Death Rider's own Pac. So big night coming up on Saturday. Should be a lot of fun. Definitely enjoyed this 3-hour treat of wrestling. I'm sure you all did as well. Let me know what you think of the whole Will Ospreay situation. I, for one, like it. I'm digging what's going on with the Death Riders. I'm a huge Death Riders fan. I like Jon Moxley. I like Will Ospreay. I like that Will Ospreay is so intent on recapturing his glory that he's willing to put aside any differences, put aside his quest for vengeance and everything else that was seeming to start to hold him back. And we'll see what happens with this whole Samoa Joe of it and the ops and what ends up happening with that. And how much longer do you think Darby Allin can hold on to this world title? Is he even going to make it to MJF? And if he does, I mean, he's going to be held together by nothing. He's going to be barely hanging on. So MJF if Darby Allin is able to make it through Pac, if he's able to make it through Okada, which are two tall orders, specifically the Okada of it all, and MJF, he'll, I'm sure, be more than willing to put his hair on the line, because I know, and that may be the point of all of this, is Darby Allin's going to be so worn out, and MJF being MJF is going to say, oh yeah, now's the time. I can take you, no problem. And he won't be wrong, but it's times like that where you can be wrong and you can get your head shaved. So I'm looking forward to see what's happening. I'm looking forward to seeing Darby continue his title reign, regardless what happens. It's been highly entertaining, and we've gotten some great matches and great moments out of it. So thank you all for watching this video. Thank you to all of you who've subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Like, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And have a great rest of your day. And until I speak to you again, take care.